But with organizations like, I'll pick on Kenneth Copeland or Benny Hinn or Creflo Dollar. These guys are making big bucks, and they're living in mansions, and they're flying private jets. And these are the kind of people that you want to see the salaries for. And so my recommendation is for organizations that earn a certain amount of money, like say over $3 to $5 million yearly, to have to file a 990. Mega churches, for example. You wouldn't want the small Baptist church on the corner with 100 members have to hire a CPA for $5,000 that they can't afford to file a Form 990. So there has to be a limit, and you'd overwhelm the IRS anyway. That's a whole nother subject we can get into later this hour, is how undermanned the IRS is and how overwhelmed they are with trying to police hundreds of thousands of different nonprofit organizations.
You actually come from an investigative background?
I don't. The first time I was asked to investigate was in 1993. I went in undercover in a printing factory, with a hidden camera for Fox News. That was before Fox News became a political channel. And unfortunately, they were threatened by one of the lawyers that represented most of the televangelists that we were seeing. And so they threw away all the hidden camera footage, never aired. But what we did find out is that dozens of different televangelists were using the same writer for their letters and the same printing plates. And so they would print off like 100,000 letters from several different televangelists, and then it would go and it would be signed by the particular, it wouldn't be actually signed. It would be digitally signed in a second procedure. They would send the letters through another printer that would be a different color of ink that would make it look like these letters were personally signed by this particular televangelist and had your name at the top, because that's when, that's about the time that it became really popular to personalize letters, to personalize mailings to people around the country. Now you get it all the time. Dear Imani, we're praying for you. We're praying for your aunt. And so these letters at that time, they could add a paragraph and that said that was particular to you, to the prayer request that had been entered in the computer, that they got your prayer request back. And so they entered your aunt or your grandmother has cancer. We're praying for her, and sign your brothers and sisters or sign brother Tilton or Brother Hinn, whatever at the time. So some of these mailings were more flagrant than others, with big bold letters on the outside of the envelope that would say urgent, open immediately, addressee only, confidential. And you'd open it up and you'd unfold a prayer rug that, like a paper rug that looked like a rug, and you're supposed to stand on it and pray. Or you'd find a picture of a wallet, and it's just a piece of paper that you unfold, and it's like, this is your wallet. God is going to bless your finances, and put this under your pillow for 3 days and pray over it, and God is going to bless you. And by the way, God wants your best financial gift right now. Make a vow of $1,000, and God will bless you and answer your prayers. And so, the fraud and the we believe it was fraud per se. And one of the lawyers for some of these televangelists, a guy named J.C. Joyce, famous quote of his was, "We even believe it's in God's interest." I can't remember exact word, but it's okay to defraud people in God's name. And we're just going, what did he just say? And we got a recording of it somewhere. But this guy successfully defended an organization called St. Matthew's Churches. Have you heard of it at all?
No.
St. Matthew's Churches, they send out letters to thousands of people around the country, to the poorest people in our society. Many of their employees will look through census records to find the poorest, most illiterate people in our society, and they'll blanket that area with what they call prospecting. They're literally prospecting for new donors, and as one
So
would
they're specifically targeting a
exactly.
very particular group.
Yeah, because it's really the most illiterate people in our society that are more susceptible to getting, say, this prayer rug or this prayer wallet or this penny that's been blessed in the River Jordan. They're susceptible to things that look religious because they haven't read their Bible. They don't know, and so that's what their employees are doing when they're looking through census records, and then they will blanket the area with a letter that says, for instance, I'm going to pick on you for a second, "Dear Imani, we don't want your money. Don't send us money right now. Send us your prayer request. Tell us everything that's going. We know you're living a difficult life, and life is tough. Please send us your prayer request." So who wouldn't respond to that kind of a solicitation? And it's signed, "Your brothers and sisters at St. Matthew's Churches." And there's a guy behind that, Reverend Gene Ewing, but we can get into that later. But so you send your information in, that gets entered into a database. And so now you're hooked. They have your address, some cases your phone number and your address to make solicitation phone calls as well. And that's when the requests for small donations start. And they'll always say, "And if you can make a bigger donation, please do." And then the ones who make a bigger donation, then they get asked for even bigger donations. And they go on to what's called an A donor list. And the people who send in can only send in $5 or $10. They go on the B or C donor list. And then it's almost impossible to get off these lists. It almost takes an act of God, so to speak. You have to contact. First off, most of the time, you can't even reach a personal employee of the organization. You're reaching the fulfillment center, and all they want is to get more money from you because that's their job. And I would hate to be working in those call centers. I mean, it's got to be a terrible job. But that's one aspect of this whole televangelist. That's the seediest part of it. And then you have certain varying degrees of respectability that some preachers will use some of the same mailing lists, but their letters won't be quite as ridiculous, quite as obvious.